Find the stream. Hopefully it isn't too far away. Hop onto the main channel. Have a look here. There it is. Game audio is coming through. Yep, and party audio is coming through too. So everything is working as it should be. We're just going to hang on for a minute, folks. We've got one driver that we're waiting on to get into the lobby. And once, I believe it's Take It Easy. When Take It Easy gets in, we'll be underway for the round. But for now, just have to sit and wait patiently for a bit. Till we get all drivers in, then we can get this thing properly underway. Hopefully it won't take too long. It shouldn't. Hopefully this doesn't take too much longer. I was told around 5 minutes past 9. Still only have 16 in the lobby. We have drivers readying up. I don't think anyone's given a ready up signal just yet. Sparty's given the ready up signal. So we'll be getting underway in a few short moments. Hopefully everyone can ready up and we can get underway sooner. Not, we'll wait until the countdown reaches 0. And we'll get underway. Hello everyone and welcome to round 4 of the America's Tier 1 Championship here on Race Spec Esports. I'm Lane Everingham, your commentator for this event, and tonight we'll be racing at Autódromo Hermanos Rodríguez for the Mexican Grand Prix. Located within Mexico City at a whopping 7,300 feet above sea level, Autódromo Hermanos Rodríguez was constructed in 1959 and has been hosting Formula One Grand Prix since 1962. 30 years later, in 1992, the circuit would disappear from the calendar and wouldn't reappear again until 2015, with the circuit redesigned into its current 2.7 mile, 17 turn layout. The racetrack consists of 2 long straights and 3 long DRS zones that lead into the prime overtaking spots of turn 1, turn 4 and turn 12. It also consists of what I believe is the most difficult S section on the whole schedule. The section is formed by turn 7 through 11. Every corner is high speed, with the car right on the edge of grip. The optimal racing line through this section will force drivers to get close with track limits, so it wouldn't be Excuse me. So I wouldn't be too surprised if we saw a fair few time penalties being dished out over the course of the two races. Finally, there's the tight, twisty arena section that usually creates chaotic bottlenecks for the drivers to deal with during the course of safety car restarts. Optimally, the car needs to be nimble enough to rotate around the slow corners in the final and first sectors. It needs to be stable enough to traverse the fast corners within the middle sector, and needs to have as little aero as possible so you can fly down the long straightaways. As you could probably tell, setups are a bit of a nightmare here in Mexico. Now, before we fully focus on this qualifying session, there is a bit of news to go through first from last week's race in Portugal. There were no Stewart reports from last week's race, so the final finishing positions remained unchanged. In the Drivers' Championship, VSR Jack is leading the way. Obviously, he's won every race. He's on 93 points, but he's absent for today's race. Instead, we have a driver by the name of Youngling with 7 A's after Youngling. Quite the username. He'll be subbing in for the Williams today. Blockman P2 in the championship is on 59 points, followed by Mighty Wombat on 55. Saucy's P4 on 44. RF1 Tom is next on 40, followed by KD on 39. Sub for Lime is on 26, followed by Rebellion on 24. Mr. Nars is next on 21. And rounding out the top 10 is Take It Easy on 20 points. In the Constructors, it's a much tighter battle towards the top, with Williams leading on 99, followed by Mercedes AMG on 94. And 11 points behind them is Alpine on 83 points. Fourth is McLaren on 66, followed by Aston Martin on 50, then Red Bull Racing on 41. Seventh is Ferrari on 29, followed by Haas on 13, Alfa Romeo on 9, and at the bottom of the table is AlphaTauri on 8 points. And that's pretty much it in terms of news. We can now focus on this qualifying session here today. Yeah, I know, Banana. Yeah, unlucky, Saucy. I heard you weren't able to join. Hopefully you get to enjoy the show regardless. Now, I mentioned in the intro we got a pair of races to deal with, because this is the first round of the championship, the first sprint round of the championship. So we got a 12-lap sprint just after this 18-minute qualifying session, and that sprint race will determine the starting order for the main race here in Mexico. Should note as well that the top 10 in the sprint will score points. Winner will score 10, second will score 9, and it goes all the way down to 1 point for 10th. Now, at the moment, the Harmacist is on pole position, provisional pole, with an 18.2. Might ride on board with Mr. Nars here, who is about to begin a flying lap. Rebel just jumps to the top with a 16.696. We'll see how the Red Bull driver fares as he begins his flying lap. I just noticed something as well, just for our American audience. Switch that to miles an hour. Luckily, the main straight is long enough for me to do that. Down towards turn 1, 207 miles an hour is the entry speed. Into the opening right-hander, through turn 2, and around turn 3. Nice and steady on the accelerator. Remember, tier 1 is a no-assist tier, so no ABS and no traction control to help these drivers out. Into the braking zone at turn 4 as Wombat jumps to the top with a 16.1. Third gear from Mr. Nars. Down to second briefly, then he short-shifted back up to third, out to turn 5. Into the hairpin of turn 6, clipping both apexes quite nicely there. And into the S section we go. Turns 7, 8, around the left-hander of turn 9, and into turns 10 and 11. Sixth gear, modulating the throttle nicely, keeping his Red Bull nice and stable throughout the whole section. Really tidy. Into turn 12, hard on the brakes at the beginning of the outside curve there for the right-hander, and into the hairpin of turn 13. Second gear, clipping the apex, short shifts up to third. Fourth gear, exiting turns 14 and 15 and around turn 16. And then the final corner, turn 17. Up towards the line, Mr. Nars will go up to P4 with a 16.886. John on a flying lap, making his way through the middle sector. He'll open DRS and head down towards the arena section. Entry speed, we'll see just under 200 miles an hour into turn 12. Understeering a tad bit wide, but he got rotation around the corner and he didn't invalidate himself. which is the most important thing through that section. Around turn 16, he decides to bail, sort of, not really. He actually crashes into the inside barrier, heading into the final corner. Rocket Alamar, Mr. Nas's teammate, making his way through turns 4 and 5 on the racetrack and up towards turn 6. Tight right-hand hairpin, second gear, and I think he might have... No, he's still pushing. He just didn't use the full width of the circuit. Exiting turn 6, he was very slow, lethargic. You can use quite a lot of curb at the exit of turn 6. It's actually one of my more favourite corners on the whole schedule. I don't know why, I just really like that neat little hairpin. Just a really tidy corner when you get it all right. It's a very nice corner to go through. Into the hairpin of turn 13. This is one of my least favourite corners on the whole schedule. I absolutely despise that arena section. Really tight, cumbersome, twisty. You have to be so careful on the... It's not fun, generally speaking, as Rocket Alamar goes 8th fastest with a 17.787. KD making his way down towards turn 1. Entry speed 206 miles an hour. Brings it all the way down to 75 at the apex at turn 1. Through turn 2 into 3. And he'll open DRS and head down towards turn 4. Yeah, I don't know why, but that little double apex hairpin is just a really tidy corner to go through. I like it. Can't say the same for a lot of the other corners around this circuit, though. Around the hairpin at turn 6. I think take it easy, he's making a mistake. He has. That's at the exit of the S section. So he's going to bail on that flying lap attempt, it would seem. Through the S's goes KD through turn 10 and 11. Nice and tidy on the exit. He'll open DRS and head down towards turn 12. Noisy neighbour. Up towards turn 13. Oh, he went down to 3rd, then short-shifted up to 4th before the apex. Guess KD realised he went one gear too far down, so he instantly short-shifted back up to 4th. KD crosses the line and jumps up to the top. 1 minute 16.074. Beats his teammate by just under 700ths of a second. Tom, meanwhile, he's on inters. Why are you on inters? Have we got a race coming? Maybe. I suppose we'll find out. Rebel on a lap. Into turn 4, he's up by 1/10 of a second. Through the left-hander into the right-hander of turn 5. And into the hairpin of turn 6. Keeping it in 4th the whole way round. Not using too much curb. He wasn't using any curb at the exit of turn 6 there. Keeping all 4 tyres on the tarmac. Tidy out of not so tidy after all. It looked pretty tidy from the curb cam, but it seems that thanks to the curb, the Alpine was picked up and spun round. Fortunately for him, it didn't end up in the barrier. Otherwise, it could have been quite a lot worse. Sergeant Bill has just completed a flying lap. P7 for him, 17.4. Professor Phil is about to begin one. Little Mick is about to begin one as well as he heads onto the main straightaway and down towards turn 1. What kind of peak speed will we see here from the Williams? Seeing 200, 202, 3, 4, 5, 6, 207, 208, 209, 210 maybe? Not quite. 209 miles an hour. Quite a slow apex speed though of only 68 miles an hour, so he is carrying less wing compared to some of the other drivers I've seen. Up towards the first sector split, the clock says he's down too by just over 1/10 of a second. Villeneuve's about to begin a flying lap here. John is in the middle of one. Yet to set a lap time though, as Saucy has joined the session. Well, there you go. He is in. He's going to be competing. Going to have an 18 car field for this event in Mexico. And trust me folks, it's going to be a long event. Out of the final corner now and back onto the main straightaway. 17.332. That is P8 for the Haas driver. Nars getting ready. Mighty Wombat on a lap. He's up by just over 1/10 of a second. And he's thrown it into the wall. Just like what we saw from Rebel but a few minutes ago. But it's resulted in far more disastrous circumstances. Smashed into the wall on the left-hand side of the circuit. Wombat is out of qualifying. The best he can hope for is a P2 start. considering we've still got a few minutes left in qualifying. Yeah, I don't think Wombat's going to hang on to P2. The track's going to evolve quite a lot towards the end. G'day, HCW. Nice to see you in the chat. Into the arena section goes Insane Sparty. Yet to set a lap time. Making his way through the stadium section. Oh, and he's back down, I think. He wasn't quite at 100% throttle there. You can go 100% throttle. Ooh. Had a bit of a wiggle coming around the final corner. Goes slowest of all with a 18.8. RF1 Tom opening DRS and heading down towards turn 4. Clock says to the first sector, Tom has improved, but only by 0.004 of a second. But you really don't expect to improve by much in the first sector. It is, after all, only 3 corners. Where you're going to find a lot of time, though, is here in the middle sector in particular. There's a lot of time that can be lost through this section. Tom currently nailing it so far. My heart leapt into my mouth as he made his way around turn 9. We've seen 2 spins there. Thought we were going to see a third, as Tom's up by 62 thousandths to the middle sector. Few corners remain now for the McLaren driver. Out of turn 13, through 14 into 15, and around turn 16, and then the final corner 17, back up towards the line. It's a 1 minute 16.234. He improves by 81 thousandths of a second. He stays P3, but he does close the gap to the top 2. Out of turn 11 comes sub for line. Tom's teammate in the McLaren. Clock says to the middle sector he's found time. He's found just under 0.3 of a second. That's Sparta getting out of the way. Good job there. Around the hairpin at turn 13. Into 14 and 15. Nice and gently on the accelerator. Eventually reaching full throttle out of turn 15. And around the final corner. Turn 17 up towards the line. It's a 16.662. It's a Mercedes 1-2, a McLaren 3-4. Right now here in Mexico. Can anyone upset the times? Rocket LMR, I think, has just completed a lap in St. Sparty. He'll be going back into the pits. Youngling is out on track. Same with Saucy. He's making his way around turns 16 and 17 onto the main straightaway he goes. You'll open DRS at the start line. There it goes. And you'll head down towards turn 1. What kind of peak speed will we see here from the Aston Martin? 206 miles an hour. 207 briefly as he heads into turn 1. Round turn 2. Into 3. Or a bit of a wiggle on the exit, but he keeps it tidy. Up towards the first sector split. Clock says for Saucy 28.5. How about Youngling? How is he faring? 28.4 to the first sector. Out of turn 6 as the Harmoses has crashed out. That is at the exit of turn 3. So the Alpha driver's day is done, at least here in qualifying. Coming out of the S is now at turn 11, up towards the middle sector split. Saucy does a 57 flat. What about Youngling to the middle sector? He does a 56.9. So these are looking like quite competitive times here from both Saucy and Youngling. Williams driver has got a slight advantage. Out to the final corner, up towards the line. It's P5 for Saucy. How will Youngling fare when he crosses the line? It will be P8. He lost time in the final sector relative to Saucy. So both drivers inside the top 10. Still a Mercedes 1-2. Mighty Wombat hanging on to that P2 for now. KD at the top of the table. Be interesting to see if he can improve. Sparty has invalidated this run. Flavius is getting ready. Sergeant Bill has spun out to turn 3, just like his teammate it seems. But he didn't put it into the barrier. He's still running. And I think, judging off the clock, 3 minutes left. He's got tons of time to try and set one more flying lap. Take it easy, makes his way down the main straightaway. He's weaving about. For some reason, I don't think he just completed that lap. He was just weaving about. Weird. Youngling will move back into the pits. Mr. Nars begins a flying lap down towards turn 1. Hitting 207 miles an hour into turn 1, down to 4th, down to 3rd. As Villeneuve retires from the session, he's done that in the pit lane, I believe. So his qualifying session is over. Up towards the first sector split for the Red Bull driver. He's up by 0.5 of a second as he heads around turn 4 into turn 5. Got nice rotation at the exit there. In the mid corner though, that Red Bull did look like it was understeering. From that camera angle anyway. Into the S's now, cutting a lot at 7. Not cutting anything at 8. Whoa, the car's right on the edge of grip, but he gets through the S as well. Clock says to the middle sector, he's up, but only by 58 thousandths. KD, meanwhile, is down to the first sector by 0.5 of a second. Or cutting way too much there, I'm afraid, at turn 9. You could see it there from the camera angle. He had all 4 wheels over the white line. Mr. Nars will cross the finish line and jump up to P4. He improves considerably in the final sector. It's a 16.426. He splits the McLarens. Rebel to the first sector is up by 0.1 of a second as he makes his way towards the hairpin of turn 6. Nice and steady all the way round. Car looked quite stable. Into turn 7 he goes. Then turn 8, round 9. Sparty retires in the pit lane. Session is done. Tidy, very tidy through the S section. Up towards the middle sector split. He's up by just under 0.4 of a second. He's looking at a low 16, I should say. If he can find any more time, he might get a high 15, who knows. Tidy run out of 16. Around turn 17. Up towards the line. It's a 16.160. It is P3 provisionally. But we still have cars on laps. One of them is about to begin their final flying lap. A little bit of jumping about. But Tom, he takes off down the main straightaway with under 20 seconds left in the session. Around turn 10 into 11. Oh, KD invalidates this run too. And he found a considerable amount of time in the middle sector. KD will be less than impressed about that. Alright, Tom heading up towards the first sector split. The clock says for the McLaren driver, he is up by 1.5 of a second. With that sort of improvement to the first sector, he's going to be challenging KD for pole. Sub-full line, meanwhile, is up by 0.2 of a second to the middle sector, making his way through the arena now. Now the final 2 corners, turns 16 and turn 17. A big wiggle, though, from sub-full line. He lost time. Oh, and he only improves by 16 thousandths. He won't be happy with that either. 1 sector remains for Tom. Into the arena section. Can he snag... Oh! Well, he's lagged out of the session. He will not be challenging KD for pole position. He lags out of the session with 1 sector left to negotiate. I did notice he was jumping around a fair bit. It seems there was some sort of connection issue. And Tom has been robbed of a chance for pole. He will start P4 for the sprint race. So here's your pole sitter. KD 1997, 1 minute 16.074, beating his teammate, Mighty Wombat, by less than 1/10 of a second. Wombat hangs on to second. I honestly didn't see that coming, considering he set that lap in the middle of the session, where we still had about 7-8 minutes left of track evolution to get through. So credit to Wombat. Quite right, Bags. Better luck involved in there for sure. Tom has rejoined the session, which is good to see. But I imagine he'd be pretty disappointed about what happened there. There's your pole sitter KD with Mighty Wombat alongside. It's a Mercedes 1-2 for the sprint race here in Mexico. Rebel will start P3. Tom 4th, Mr. Narzan 5th, Sufferline 6th, followed by Saucy 7th, Youngling 8th, Professor Phil 9th, and Take It Easy rounds out to 10. John is P11, followed by Little Mick, Sergeant Bell, the Harmesis, Rocket Alamar, Villeneuve, Flavius, and Insane Sparty will be starting from the very back of the grid in 18th position. Alright. Main race time. Now, for the previous 2 races I've done... That is true, right? Bags. For the previous 2 races I've done, it's been dry in both the sprint and the main race. And I don't think I got any info. I'm sure somebody probably told me something. No, I haven't been at it at all. So I'm going to assume that it's going to be nice and dry. Hopefully. Wet weather races tend to be a bit more dull. Yeah, I haven't been told anything, so I'm going to assume it's dry in both sessions. It usually is. Well, there's the timer. That's come around pretty early. Oh, that might be one of the new guys pressing it early. There's usually an instruction given out by Sparty to wait. Yeah, half dry, half wet would be interesting. But yeah, Sparty usually gives out an order to wait. To give as much people as much time as possible to confirm their setups and strategies. I suppose, though, for a sprint, you don't really need to change much. So... we'll bring up the detail, just briefly. Yeah, everyone's on the medium, so we don't need that. It's going to be just a straight-up dogfight between all 18 drivers. There's no strategy. There's no strategy games you can try and play. It's just going to be a dogfight. There will be a few games, though. Especially in regards to DRS, because of how ridiculously powerful it is here. You got 2 incredibly long DRS zones heading towards turn 1 and turn 3 with no DRS detection zone in between. So if you get DRS down the main straight, you'll get DRS down this straightaway as well heading into turn 4. So it really gives the car behind a huge advantage when they're within DRS range. Because they can pass into turn 1 and then pull away from you after turn 3 into 4. And if they got good car speed, especially through the middle sector, they'll disappear from you. Just noticed as well, at my place it's raining. Yeah, it's raining. Interesting. Yeah, finally bags, they simulate the actual atmospheric conditions of this racetrack, but they don't. So, because of course, folks, this racetrack sits 7,300 feet above sea level, or in metric that's about 2.2 kilometers. Because it's so high up, there's so little air around the racetrack, which means there isn't a lot of drag. So the drag reduction system doesn't really do much. That's why there's 2 long DRS zones with no DRS detection zone in between. Because they're trying to give the... well, that's not very smart, KD. Trying to give the drivers as much DRS as possible to try and make moves happen. And KD spinning out. I'm sure his tyres are now nice and warm for the start of the sprint. Lining up on pole. Alongside him is his teammate, a Mercedes front row. That might actually work out to be a disadvantage for them. Because they're going to be punching a huge hole in the air heading down towards turn 1. So the drivers behind, like Rebel and Tom, they're going to have a huge advantage with the slipstream heading towards turn 1. Alright, all 18 cars are lined up ready to run. We got 12 laps in front of us for this sprint. We're waiting for the game to confirm all of the necessary loading stuff and we'll get underway. What are we waiting on? Someone's not properly loading in to the session. Looking at this, I have a feeling it's Tom. His battery is not on overtake. Well, we're going to get a migration here. Will we get lights? No. I'll keep an eye on the Discord, folks. Give me a minute. Okay, it seems to be a lobby restart. I think Sparty's just given the call, restarting lobby. Just double confirm that. It's really starting to rain heavily outside. Gee whiz. Well, we'll leave this. Yeah, so it's a lobby reset. That is the official order from Mr. Sparty. Yeah. Yeah, I get what you mean, Banana. It's all happened again. Yeah, it is pretty heavy. In fact, I'm going to quickly check something. So I'll disappear for at least a minute. I just want to quickly check something and I'll be back. Alright, I'm back. I just checked if I had closed out on the line, and I didn't. If I remember correctly, it didn't quite happen in elite, so I guess it's just really bad luck, more than anything else. Was I given an invite out of curiosity? No. Okay. But yeah, it's an issue we've had for ages, where lobbies can just shut itself down, not properly load in. Yeah. It's just frustrating. Because obviously you want everything to work nice and smoothly. When it doesn't work smoothly, everyone gets all antsy and angry and frustrated, and it all just sort of falls apart. It just turns into a complete mess. So I mean, we could theorize a whole heap of things that could cause what's happened here. It doesn't really matter what we can come up with, because it's very inconsistent. Sometimes it will just happen. It feels like you've done everything you can do to avoid it, and it just sort of happens. So this wouldn't be an issue if Codemasters had lobbies that didn't do this. I mean, this has been an issue since I've began league racing all the way back in 19. So, did he? Yeah, he has. It's just frustrating. And the really annoying bit is the amount of times I've seen this over the course of the games that we played. I've become numb to it. This is just something you have to accept. That every so often everything will shut down, everything will stop working, and you have to reset everything. It's happened so often with these Codemasters F1 games that, yeah, you just accept it and get on with it. So, you know, what are you gonna do? Alright, I think everyone's in. Everyone just needs to pick their car, and Mr. Sparty can set up the grid order for the sprint. Banana, I would encourage you to say a paragraph or several rather than a word, because Codemasters deserve it at this point. It's been the same problem for 4 years and they haven't fixed it. So, you know, for a game that has this much of a league racing following, to have these issues still is just incredible. Oh, man. Oh. Hopefully this won't take too long. Oh well. I suppose we got real life Formula 1 to look forward to in the coming days with pre-season testing kicking off. So at least there's something to look forward to. Oh. But you don't get a proper gauge of who's where in terms of pace, not properly anyway. All the teams are too busy sandbagging, trying to not show all their cards yet. But it'll just be nice to see the cars out on track with their drivers. It'll be a nice thing to see. Yeah, no Lance Stroll. I'll be interested to see if he's not able to attend the first round of the championship, who will they have fill in? I mean, their current reserve driver, I believe, is Felipe Drugovich, but I have heard Stoffel Van Dorn's name being tossed around a fair bit as well. So, I suppose we'll find out in the coming days. You would think so, Bags, but you never know. Motorsport is a weird sort of sport. Well, like I said, I've heard Van Dorn's name tossed around, so we'll see. We'll see with Aston Martin. A few drivers readying up, so we must be getting pretty close. Has he actually given the ready up signal? No, he hasn't. Well, it seems that we're going anyway. Hopefully the grid's properly set. Hopefully. Oh well, we'll find out. Oh, okay, yeah, I've just spotted it then. Ugh. He did give a ready up signal. I just didn't see it. I thought he'd at people. Oh well, that's okay. Yeah, I was worried that we all jumped the gun and we'd have to do another reset. Now, any driver watching this, remember to put a setup on. Okay? I'm talking loud because I'm talking through experience. Driving with the default setup in a race is the exact opposite of fun. And so is this racetrack 9 times out of 10. So, having a default setup around Mexico is essentially a nightmare. So don't drive with the default setup. Put a setup on. Please, for your own sanity. Alright. It's clear-ish. There is a bit of cloud cover I can see, but we shouldn't get any wet weather interference for the event. Now, I shouldn't see that timer for at least a minute. You got to give yourselves enough time so you can properly get your setups on the car, tune them if you need to, make sure you have the right fuel load for the sprint. You don't need to adjust it by much, obviously. It's only a 12-lap race, but, you know, those little things matter. I mean, 0-0. 0-0 would be something. I remember running 0-0 at Baku, and man, I could not take a single corner properly. I missed every apex, every braking zone, every traction zone was absolutely munted, but by God, I was a bullet train in a straight line. Yeah, that is true. He's not here. Hopefully he will make it a bit more competitive at the front. Jack truly is quite the driver. He's almost impossible to beat. In fact, I'm of the belief that he's that good. The only person that can beat him is himself. In this championship at least. He needs to make a mistake to allow other people to try and win. Alright. Race time. Or rather, formation lap time. Who's on what? Everyone's on mediums. What a surprise. Get rid of that. We don't need any details just yet. We just need to concentrate on the order. So, KD will be starting from pole position with Mighty Wombat, his teammate, alongside him. Mercedes-Benz 1-2. Rebel will start P3, Tom P4, Mr. Nars P5, then Subfoline P6. I didn't mention this earlier, but that's a pretty solid qualifying for McLaren. I reckon they'd both be pretty happy with that overall. Saucy in P7, he'd be happy after a late rejoin and no practice. Youngling P8, Professor Phil P9. Take it easy rounds out the top 10. Outside the 10 we have John in P11, Little Mick 12th. Sergeant Bill and the Harmisters, the two Alfa Romeos in P13 and 14. Rocket P15, Villeneuve P16, and Flavius and Smarty will start from the very back in P17 and P18. Yeah, as I was talking about it earlier, it's just going to be a dogfight. There's no strategy in this. It's just fighting on track. So hopefully we get to see a bit of action. We're probably going to see drama. This is Mexico. It's sort of renowned for creating drama. Definitely saw that in Tier 1 last night. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some drama here in the Americas Championship as well. Now KD, you probably do yourself a favour by not spinning this time around. Just keep your Merc nice and straight. I want to spin the thing out. Trying to get temperature into his rears. It's important that you get temperature into your rear tyres for the start. Pumping up the front brakes as well to get them nice and warm. It's a long run down to turn 1. They get pretty cold. Here comes his teammate Rebel, P3. Then Tom. There's his teammate. Oh, Tom overshoots it. Ouch. Mr. Nars will line up in a bit. There he is there. Now we're just waiting for the tail of the field. There goes Sparty into his grid slot. All 18 cars are now lined up ready to run. We got 12 laps in front of us. And finally we got some lights. We got 10 red lights. And the sprint race is underway here in Mexico. It's a nice start from Mighty Wombat. He'll get by his teammate heading down towards turn 1. Rebel fighting with Tom as they head towards the opening right-hander. Tom getting in front of KD. He moves himself into P2, but he can't take the lead from Mighty Wombat. KD trying to fight around the long way. He has the inside line at turn 2. He will get in front of Tom, so KD will keep P2 for now, but he has lost his lead from from qualifying. Oh, tight between Tom and Rebel into turn 4. Some tight stuff behind as well. Side-by-side action here between Naz and John as they head around turn 5 up towards turn 6. Naz with the inside line. John going deep around the long way. Oh, he's going to get this done, John. He has the... Oh, no, he doesn't. I think he backed out. I reckon he had more momentum than Mr. Naz, but... he elects to back out. Oh, Honda steer. Here comes Young laying round the outside at turn 10. It turns into the inside. Wow-wee, that was tight. That could have been an accident, but fortunately it wasn't. Here comes Professor Phil. He looks to the inside, can't go for the move. Take it easy. He looked at Little Mick there, but didn't go for the move either. Into the hairpin at turn 13. Round 14 into 15. Around the final 2 corners. So it's Mighty Wombat who leads. KD is in second. RF1 Tom third. Tom only 3/10 behind KD. Heading towards turn 1. Not close enough to attack just yet. Around turn 2. Into turn 3. Down this long straightaway. KD pulls away just a little bit from Tom. Yeah, thanks for the pit stop strategy game. Appreciate it. Ah, it's a sprint race, damn it. Out of turn 5, up towards turn 6. None of these guys are in any sort of position to attack just yet. Oh, KD, that is wide. Really wide out of turn 6. And all these guys, similar story with the front runners. They're a bit too far spread apart to battle just yet. Oh, Rebel. 3-second time penalty already. Really does demonstrate how difficult this track is when it comes to track limits. Oh wow, it seems to be so critical, Bags. It's shown me it twice. Thanks, game. I appreciate the information. Down the main straightaway, it's now lap 3. Yellows are out, it's Little Mick who has spun. Making his way out of the arena now, he's down in last position. This is a critical lap, lap 3. KD needs to stay within 1 second of his teammate. He cannot drop back any further. Otherwise, he'll be very vulnerable to the likes of Tom and Rebel. Saucy not too far behind in P5 either. I'll bring up the position change graphic now that I reminded myself of it. So the biggest gainer after the first few laps, it's a tie between the Harmacist and Rocket LMR. They've both made up 3 spots after the start. Biggest loser, Little Mick, after his spin in the arena section. It's no surprise whatsoever. Take it easy, he's lost a few spots too. He's down 3, down in P13. Down towards turn 12. KD doing all he can to try and stay within that 1 second range. Needs a pretty tidy final sector. Oh, Tom ran a bit wide there. It's cost himself tenths. I don't think KD's got DRS. Let's find out. Here it comes. Nah, I didn't think so. So he was outside of that 1 second range at the DRS detection zone. It's after turn 15. Here comes Young Lean on Mr. Naz. That was an easy overtake for the substitute Williams driver. Oh, very wide entry into turn 1 too. He was using all of the curb on the outside of the right-hander just to try and open up the first corner as much as possible. Saucy now on the back of Rebel, applying pressure. Coming out to turn 5, heading towards turn 6. The gap sits at 0.3 of a second. Nice and tidy out of the hairpin, down towards turn 7. Chucking it through the S's. Right on the edge of grip the whole way through. You make a slight mistake, all that grip can disappear. Can end up quite easily in the barrier. Around turn 13 into 14, then turn 15, and the final two corners, 16 and 17. Fourth gear. Oh, and a moment from Rebel. A huge slide. He's caught it well, but here comes Saucy, and he can't fight this. DRS open on the Aston Martin, and that Alpine's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Into turn 1, fourth gear. Turn 2. Around 3. Keeping it off the orange sausage curves, not cutting it too much there. Keeping it well within track limits as Sparty gets by his teammate. Tom has now closed right up in behind the Mercedes of KD. KD has kept himself within that 1 second range to Mighty Wombat. John under pressure from Professor Phil. Coming out to turn 5, bit of lag there, that's okay. And around the hairpin at turn 6. Through this middle sector, you really can't do much. All you can do is try and apply pressure to the car in front and not lose too much time. Oh, not a great run out of turn 7 though, it's cost him time. Oh, and that's going to cost him even more. Fortunately, ghosting's turned on, otherwise he would have had a massive shunt with his teammate. You get pointed back in the right direction, and he tumbles down to last position thanks to that one spin. Lap 6 of 12. Yellows are out again. It's the harm assist. Making a mistake at the exit of 12 and the beginning of 13, I believe. Here comes Tom. Around the outside at turn 1, which will turn into the inside at turn 2. He backed out of that one. He slammed on the brakes to get away from KD there at turn 2. KD will hang on to second position. Yellow's out again. That is Sergeant Bill. How have you spun here, mate? That's well down the main straightaway. Okay. Bill gets by Flavius. That is for P16. Coming out of the S's now. Oh, KD, a 3-second time penalty. Multiple warnings. Well, that is going to be a tremendous blow for KD. It was looking like a possible 1-2, but with that penalty, that result is thrown out the window. Tom, he'll be looking to get by KD as soon as possible. See if he can attack Mighty Wombat. He's a bit too far behind, though, to do anything at this point, and KD still has DRS assistance. Down towards turn 1, the gap shrinks to under 0.3 of a second. It doesn't shrink by enough to allow him to attack into turn 1. Doesn't get the best of runs through 2 and 3. So KD pulls away. Little Mick gets by Sparty. That was for P14. Down towards turn 4. Tom still not quite close enough. Sub for Lime. Youngling battling. Youngling wins said battle. He moves into P6. And now Mr. Nars is on the back of this in the Red Bull. Heading around the hairpin at turn 6. Nice and tidy from all three drivers. And through the S's we go. Youngling pulling away. Sub for Lime doing his best to stay nice and close. Relatively close. Still has DRS, which is the most important thing. Rebel keeping Saucy company, who was trying to catch up to Tom, who was trying to pass KD to catch up to Mighty Wombat. Our race leader, speaking of which, he's just begun lap 8 of 12 here in Mexico. Tom's closing, but feel like he won't be closing by enough. Or maybe he will, actually. KD doesn't go for the pass. He stays behind KD. He's not going to go for it here. How peculiar. KD with no DRS assistance whatsoever. Tom's going to have a crack here at turn 4. No, he doesn't. And KD runs wide as a result. He thought that Tom was going to go down the inside. And he left that door open. Look, door was firmly shut around the outside bags. If that was the case, it's not very intelligent racecraft. Yeah, he's not trying to pass KD. He's just losing time now to the race leader, Youngling. Why is that out of place? Oh, whatever. He's got a 3-second time penalty. Multiple warnings. KD's recovered decently well. He still has decent pace underneath him. It's just he's got a 3-second time penalty next to his name, and he now has DRS again. So that means Tom, he's going to be stuck behind KD for another lap. Ooh, Rebel closing in into turn 1. Not by enough, though, to attack into the right-hander. Rebel, can he line up and overtake perhaps at turn 4? He's got battery to play with. Can't say the same for Saucy. You can tell from the flashing red lights on the back of the car. He's in harvest mode, trying to recover battery. Round turn 5. Bit of a wiggle from Saucy. Round turn 6. Nice and tidy on the exit there. Round turn 7. 8. Cutting a fair bit there. Round 9, that's a warning. That was a warning for sure. Round turn 11. Opens DRS and heads towards turn 12. Not the best of middle sectors from Rebel. Yellow's out. That is John spinning. He's facing the wrong way. He's going to get disqualified here. Oh, somehow he doesn't. He was driving a fair way backwards down that racetrack, but the game said, you know what, it's okay. We're not going to disqualify him, which is a first. KD with DRS still. Just about to keep Tom at bay. We're looking to the inside this time around into turn 1. KD's going to fight here down the inside at 2, and he keeps the position. Keeping Tom at bay. KD's doing his teammate a huge amount of service here. Essentially guaranteeing a Wombat win at this stage, unless Tom can find a way by at the beginning of lap 11. If he doesn't get by then, I think his chances for a sprint race win are out the window. Yellow's out. That is Professor Phil. And he's got complete front wing damage on the Ferrari, but it's lap 10 of 12. So at this point, it'll be too late to have a safety car. So it's just going to be Yellows in that sector, thanks to the debris. Coming out of the stadium section now. 8 tenths separating the top 2. So KD will still get some DRS assistance, so we can keep Tom at bay. 2 laps to go in the sprint. Tom not close enough to be able to do anything heading into 1. Similar story with everyone else. So we might see a change here between Villeneuve and Little Mick. Heading around the final corner, Little Mick, he's definitely close enough, and he's got battery to play with too. Down towards turn 1, he should get Villeneuve pretty easily here as Professor Phil gets out of the way of Sergeant Bill. Into turn 1, Mick gets Villeneuve pretty easily there, P12 for him. Got a small train of cars here with Youngling, Mr. Nars and Subfoline making their way out of turn 6. Professor Phil gets a speeding penalty. He might be retiring from the sprint. He will be starting from the very back in 18th in the main race. Sparta gets by Villeneuve, who has spun, it seems. Yes, he's in the infield. Get pointed back in the right directions, but he's plummeted down to 16th. Around the final couple of corners for Mighty Wombat. Make his way back onto the main straight and begin the final lap. Lap 12 of 12 in this Mexico sprint. KD with DRS still, keeping Tom at bay. But here he comes to the inside. Can he get KD before the braking zone? Seems like he can. But it might be just too little too late for Tom. He's a bit too far behind, I reckon, to attack into turn 4. Heading up towards the left-hander. He will close in thanks to DRS, but not by enough. And he closes to within 0.6 of a second. Rebel still applying pressure to Saucy, but Saucy is hanging on pretty well, and he should get a podium finish as well in the sprint, which I'm sure he'll be pretty happy about. Through the S's we go. Around turn 10 and 11. Tidy from the top three, keeping it within the white lines. One sector remains for our race leader. Confetti begins to fly as the leaders make their way out of the stadium section and around the final two corners. It's a fine drive from Mighty Wombat, didn't put a single foot wrong. He wins the Mexico sprint. RF1 Tom will finish in second. Saucy will finish on the podium in third. KD, fourth place. Better than nothing, I'm sure, but I reckon he would have liked a 1-2 finish with him and his teammate in the sprint. Rebel P5, Mr. Nas P6, and Subfalime, Youngling P8, Take It Easy in 9th, and Rocket LMR will round out the point scoring places in 10th. Armistice P11, then Little Mick in 12th, Insane Sparty will finish P13. Then we have John C. and Flavius, P14 and 15. And we'll have Villeneuve and Sergeant Bill. Fetty is still flying in that stadium section. Gee whiz. Can hear it. Alrighty. Sprint done. This man is our race winner. First driver to win a race that isn't Jack. He's been given driver of the day for his performance as well. So, results from the sprint. Mighty Wombat is our race winner. RF1 Tom second. Saucy third, followed by KD. Rebel fifth, Mr. Nas in sixth. Subfalime in seventh. Youngling eighth. Take It Easy ninth. Rocket LMR rounds out the top 10. Armistice is next P11, followed by Little Mick in 12th. Insane Sparty 13th, followed by John C. and Flavius. Villeneuve, Sergeant Bill, and Professor Phil, who will be starting from the very back of the grid. And Wombat given driver of the day. Interesting. Looking at the position changes, it probably should have went to either Saucy or Rocket LMR. They made up more places. Insane Sparty made up places too, but I suppose with him and with Rocket LMR, they didn't finish in the points, so... Yeah, it's weird how the game decides driver of the day now. It used to be quite a lot more simple, but now, yeah, it's a bit difficult to work out how the game does it. Slightly overcast conditions. You can see around the racetrack, there's bits of blue sky, there's bits of quite dark clouds, but it should be dry. I can't help but feel it's going to be completely dry. Oh. Ow. Only the flag's waving. One thing that's really weirded me out. Why would anyone bring a European flag to fly around in a grandstand? Like Codemasters. Think about that for a bit. Like, we're in Mexico, right? Like, a Finnish flag, there might be some Bottas fans. A New Zealand flag, yeah, sure, why not? Maybe some foreigner got confused with the Australian and... Oh, actually, no, that is an Australian flag. I just saw the star underneath the Union Jack. So, yeah, that's actually the Australian flag. That makes sense. Mexican flags definitely make sense. Is that the Polish flag? I'm pretty certain. White on top of red is Polish, no? Not Monegasque? I'm reasonably certain. I'll quickly look that up. Monaco flag. Yeah, it's red on white. So those are Polish flags flying around. Oh, no, like some bits are fans. Yeah, sure. Why though is there a pair, literally a pair of European flags? Like, how much of a European snob do you have to be to bring a European flag? You're not even representing your nation now. You're just representing the continent. Saying, yes, Europe, we're better than all of you. Come on, Katie. Just a little thing. Amongst the other pieces of rubbish within this game. Go Europe. Yeah, that's right. Go Europe. I like the driver that's from Europe. That's what I'm supporting. Gee whiz. Alright. Formation lap time for a second time. Who's on what? Okay, it's a mix. That's good to see. In the previous races I've done, everyone's just picked hards. Everyone picked hards to start on. Here it's a mix. So, Mighty Wombat starting from pole position is on the medium compound tyre. It's the same story with Tom in P2, Saucy in P3 and KD in P4. In the third row we have Rebel P5. He's starting on the hard. Same with Mr. Nars in P6. Subforline P7 starting on the mediums. Youngling, Take It Easy and Rocket LMR are all starting on the hard tyre. Harmesis is starting on the mediums. Little Mick is starting on the hards. And Saint Sparty is starting on the mediums. John C is starting on the hard tyre in P14. Flavius is starting on the mediums, so the AlphaTauris are on the same strategy. Next we have Villeneuve in P16 on the hards, and our final two drivers, Sergeant Bell and Professor Phil, are starting on the mediums. So we've got 2, 5, 6, 7, 8 drivers on the hards, 10 on the mediums. So majority goes to the mediums. That is surprising. In every other tier I've watched, it's hards all the way for the beginning of the race. Yes, Bill and Phil. I clicked onto that when I was saying it in the final race results after the sprint. I'm like, the last row there is a... they're rhyming. Yeah. Bill and Phil. The rhyming row of Bill and Phil. Alright. Leaders now making their way. I don't know why it goes to this camera, Phil. We're a bit too far away. This is a bit better. So is this. Saucy's just disqualified himself, so he's overshot his pit box. His starting slot. Starting grid slot. Pit box. It's been a long day. Alright. Everyone should be lined up ready to run. Instead of 12 this time around, we have 36 laps in front of us. 5 red lights. And the main race is underway here in Mexico. It's a nice start from Mighty Wombat. A nice start from Tom. The top two drive away from the rest of the field. Rebels up to 4th. KD down to 5th. As they head down towards turn 1. Tom with the inside line. Wombat fighting around the long way here. Wombat keeps the lead heading into turn 2. And Tom slots into P2. So it's Wombat who leads. Tom second, Saucy in third as they head towards turn 4. Tom to the inside here at turn 4. Trying to keep the battle alive, but Wombat has the inside line at 5. Gets in front, yellows are out. Subforlime has had an accident at turn 4 and he tumbles all the way down to last. Down into the S's now. Turn 7, 8, and around turn 9. Into 10. Then 11. Wombat with clear air in front, but Tom's got pace. John C is overtaken. Take It Easy. That was for P10. Here comes Rebel and KD. Rebel keeps P4. KD trying to find a way by. Trying to look around the outside. That won't work. Through 14 into 15. Yellow's out again. It's Sergeant Bill spinning at turn 12. Tumbles down to last position now. So Subforlime and Sergeant Bell having shocking starts on the opening lap of the main race. Wombat still leads. Take It Easy's had a spin at the final. No, he's in. He's in. Damage. It has to be damage. Yeah, he's got a broken wing. He's going to get that fixed. Yellow's out. It's KD who has spun. That is at turn 1. Through turn 2. Ghosting system working. Just about. So KD now down to 8th position. Not sure if he and Rebel made any contact, but regardless of what happened there, KD is now down to 8th place with a ton of work to do. He's got 4 cars in front of him on hard compound tyres, and he's on a set of mediums. He needs to get by them as soon as possible. Top 3, meanwhile, separated by a second nose to tail. Pretty tight between these 3 cars. And there's Rebel, just behind, 1.7 seconds behind. I think what would be a nice thing for him to do is to just keep that top 3 just about in touching distance. As KD and Rocket LMR battle for position. They were both off the circuit there at 12. KD trying to go around the long way at 13, and he gets in front at turn 14. So KD up into 7th position now. Rocket LMR under pressure from Little Mick behind. Down towards turn 1 we go. Rocket LMR in the slipstream of KD, but look at Little Mick. He's buried in the slipstream of the Red Bull in front, but he's not close enough to attack here into the opening corner. You could already see a flashing red light on the back of KD's car, so he's already low on battery. Having to spend all of it to try and catch up, it seems. Svarty close, but he won't be close enough. Villeneuve under a little bit of pressure from Subfalime, who's trying to recover. John C pits in. He must have had damage, so he puts on a set of soft compound tyres. They head around the hairpin at turn 6. Wombat still leads. Tom still in 2nd. Saucy still in 3rd. Gap now 1.3 seconds nose to tail in this group. Saucy, he'll do the best he can to try and stay within a second of Tom. And Tom in turn is trying to do his best to stay within a second of Mighty Wombat, which I believe he's more than capable of doing. Out of the final corner and down the main straightaway, it's now lap 4 of 36, and that's a flashing red light on the back of the Merc. So Wombat's already low on battery. Switch on the telemetry, he's on 6%. Tom's on 49%. It's a 9-day difference. Tom trying to look around the outside of turn 1. Just doesn't work. Stays behind through 2 and into 3. Switching the battery on now. He'll open DRS. Draws alongside and gets in front. Tom takes the lead. Heading into turn 4. Saucy just behind. In P3 watching the show. Wombat had a sneaky look down the inside there for whatever reason. He took an incredibly narrow line into turn 6. And he indirectly compromised himself as a result. Because he had to take more speed off into the corner to avoid contact. I don't know why he did that. He's better off slotting in behind. Villeneuve has spun. There he is there. Flick spins it back in the right direction on the grass, and he gets going again. Heading around turn 16 and turn 17, back onto the main straight. Sector 2 yellows, that is Sergeant Bill. Here comes Villeneuve to take the position. Bill down to 16th. 4/10 separating the top 2. Wombat closes in, but not by enough to attack into turn 1. He'll stay behind for now, but he is right on the McLaren's gearbox. Heading out of turn 3. Rest of the gaps are pretty big at this point. This is the closest battle we have between anybody in the field. So we'll keep an eye on this. Oh, looked like Saucy got a bit sideways there out of turn 4 from this camera angle anyway. Didn't lose too much time though, if any. Into the S's. Shucking it through. Oh, you're right on the edge the whole way through that sector. You make a mistake, it's race over. And there's Rebel behind, 4 seconds behind, but he shouldn't be too worried. He's on an alternate strategy, and as I said, he just needs to keep them in sight, within touching distance, so to speak. Just needs to see him, know where they are, and just drive nice and sensibly. ultimately penalties are going to play a factor, and there's the first one for this race. The Harmesis gets a 3-second time penalty. And trust me, he's not going to be the only one who gets time penalties. There are going to be a fair few drivers who will get time penalties. It's just how this track works. So, sub for line closing in on Flavius here. But Flavius has got some straight line speed in this AlphaTauri. He is pulling away from the McLaren, so this battle seems like it won't materialise. Wombat 6/10 behind Tom, heading around the hairpin at turn 6. And down towards the S's we go. There's Rebel, way off into the distance. He's actually lost a fair chunk of time. Lost about 7/10 the last time I checked. So yeah, those hard tyres don't have a huge deal of pace right now. Mr. Nars is going to be under pressure here. He's got Youngling in the Williams and KD in the Mercedes closing in. Down towards turn 12. Mr. Nars, he will be a bit of a sitting duck. And there's not going to be much he can do about it either. Head around turn 16 and turn 17 onto the main stretch. Youngling will open DRS, and he should get by pretty easily here, and does. An elementary overtake with DRS. KD closing in, but not by enough to attack the Red Bull into turn 1. Just a bit too far behind. Around turn 2 into 3 though. KD gets a nice run. Got momentum, he's got DRS. Spending the battery too. Well, Mr. Nars might be a bit too far away. Oh, he's going to try and send it anyway. Cuts all of turn 4. And he gets a time penalty. He's run wide at turn 5, around turn 6. Man, really tried to send it there. And it's completely backfired. He's now got a time penalty. And he's lost time to Youngling. And at turn 11 and down towards turn 12. KD won't be close enough to send it here. He needs to remain patient and not do that. He ran wide at 12. Missing the apex. Wombat. Oh, top 3 are setting fastest time. So these guys still have pace. Yellows are out again. It's Sergeant Bill. That is at turn 8. And here comes Take It Easy. Ooh, Take It Easy decided to slow down to make sure he avoided contact with Sergeant Bill. Very sensible thing to do there. KD gets by Mr. Nars. That's down the main stretch. Into turn 1. He's now into P6. Through 4 and 5. Up towards turn 6 comes the leaders. 7/10 separating P1 and 2, half a second separating P2 and 3. They just need to keep ticking laps over, keep this pace up. They have pulled away from the rest of the field by quite a considerable margin. And if it remains green from here to the checkered flag, this is going to be the fight for the win. These guys have taken full use of their medium compound tyres. They've been quite effective on them. Down towards turn 1. It's now lap 9 of 36 here in Mexico. DRS wide open on the Mercedes, closing the gap. Looking at gaps again, Subfoline is close. Can he launch an attack this time around on Flavius? Flavius will get DRS assistance thanks to his teammate, but look at the battery that Subfoline has. He's going to get by. Oh, this is going to get interesting. Almost onto the grass. So Subfoline gets by Flavius. Can he get by Sparty? He's got a ton of momentum. Gee whiz into turn 1. He's all over the back of the AlphaTauri. Lost time though through the chicane. Have a decent enough exit. DRS open. ERS switched on. Looking around the outside into turn 4. Sparty fights back. It's tight. Line gets from front. Sparty with the inside line at turn 6. Sub leaves the door open, but he gives himself a better exit out of the hairpin. And as a result, he'll hang on to P12. Youngling has KD closing in. He's now 8 tenths behind as they head around turn 16 and 17. Back on to the main straightaway. Seems as well, Rebel, he now has both Youngling and KD closing in, and Tom has given himself a 3-second time penalty. The race leader has a time penalty next to his name. So that's going to be a huge blow for Tom. It might be a window of opportunity for his rivals to take advantage, especially towards the closing laps. If that fight for the lead remains to be Tom, Wombat and Saucy, then yeah, Wombat and Saucy are going to have a huge advantage if they remain penalty free. And down into the S's now, turns 7, 8, round 9, bit of lag there, that's okay. Round 10 into 11, and towards turn 12. Youngling's still a bit too far away. There's Mr. Nars. Round the hairpin at turn 13 into 14 and 15. Sitting at 1.4 seconds. Tom's trying to pull away as well. He's got 8.5 tenths in hand to Wombat. Seems that Wombat has responded though through the first sector. Close that back up to 7 tenths of a second. Into turn 1. KD closing in bit by bit. Sure he would like to find a way by Youngling as soon as possible. He has DRS, the Williams does not. But KD does not have any battery left, he's spent it all. Harmicist sub for Lime changing places. Harmicist now into P11, yellow's out, that is Sergeant Bell running wide as KD 1997. He loses time to the Williams, time that he can't afford to lose. The Harmicist still battling here with sub for Lime. Heading around turn 5 up towards turn 6. Rebel gets a 3-second time penalty now. Another driver to add on to the penalty list. Tom, new fastest lap. Top 3 are starting to spread out. Yellow's out, it's Little Mick. Yellow's out again, that's Sergeant Bill. And here comes Harmicist and Sub for Lime. They move through, or not quite. Sub eventually gets in front of the Williams. Oh, and here comes the two Alpha Tauris as well of Sparty and Flavius. They're closing in on the fight. Harmicist working away, Sub for Lime right behind. Sub pulls out of the slipstream, draws alongside the Alfa Romeo. Gets in front well before turn 1. Sub for Lime into P10, Harmicist down to 11th, and he might be vulnerable to the lights of Little Mick as Flavius gets by Sparty at turn 1. Mick dumping his battery, DRS switched on, looks to the inside here into turn 4. Game's giving me terrible camera angles. Alright, what's that camera angle? Looking through the rear wing, it gives me nothing. If I ask for an outboard shot, I want an outboard shot. Not an inboard outboard shot. That's just ridiculous. Looking through the rear wing, seeing nothing. Worthless bloody camera angle. Down towards turn 12. Nick, not close enough to do anything here. The DRS zone after 11 isn't quite long enough to allow for overtaking into turn 12, unless you get a really good run through the S's themselves. You can't really make a move into turn 12. Harmicist pits in. He's done 11 laps, 12 laps on those tyres, so He's going to come in, put on the hard tyre and go to the end. And the tyres should easily do that. According to the game, the tyres can do somewhere between 28 29 laps. That's how long they could go. So the hard tyres are very, very durable race tyre. You can use it for an eternity. The only trouble is it's going to take a while to get up to temperature. And before that point, you're going to have absolutely zero grip. That's a bit of a mistake from Mighty Wombat. It's cost himself a 1/10.5 to the race leader. Saucy is starting to drop back. He doesn't quite have the pace to keep up with the top two as they now begin lap 14 of 36 here in Mexico. Down towards turn 1. The gap's shrinking between the top two. Shrinking. And again, not close enough to attack. Sub for Lima, 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. KD, DRS open, no battery left to spend. He's completely out of it. Sector 3 yellows. That is, I believe, Sergeant Bell spinning at the arena section. Out of turn 3. DRS open. KD's car, but he's not closing in by enough to attack into turn 4. Insane Sparty's in. So you get off the medium compound tyre and onto a set of hards. Way he leaves. A couple of other drivers in too. Through the S's we go. Half a second separating these two. Man, Youngling was cutting a fair chunk of that. Out to the S's and towards turn 12. DRS open on the Mercedes. And again, not closing in by enough to do anything. And Rebel, well, he's keeping these two behind in the Alpine. Still got decent enough pace on those tyres. But he is now 13.2 seconds behind the leading trio. It's a long, long way behind John C. Making his way out of the pits. He's pitted onto some new tyres. New old tyres, they're 2-lap old hards. Again, KD not close enough to do anything just yet. I think, folks, we're just entering that stage of the race where nothing's going to happen until the pit cycle, or somebody crashes and brings out a safety car. Just one of those boring mid-phases of a race that you typically tend to see in F1. It's going to take a while. 6/10 separating the top two. The gap is shrinking down a little bit thanks to DRS, but not by enough per the norm. Mighty Wombat doesn't really need to do much. Take it easy. He's in pit lane. He's onto a new set of mediums. Got a fair few drivers pitting in a fair few times. And that's another one. Tom's in, our race leader. So he's going to try and go for an undercut. Now, this could work if he was going off hards onto mediums. But I feel getting off the medium tyre and onto a set of hards isn't going to work. I feel like him pitting this early is going to actually cost him the race lead. I think. Because of how long it's going to take to get those tyres up to temperature. KD has followed the former race leader in as well. He's moved on to a set of fresh, hard compound tyres. We'll see if it actually works out or not for Tom, but I just can't help but feel it's not going to work. And he will more than likely lose the lead to Mighty Wombat. Excuse me, Mighty Wombat. Villeneuve, a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Wombat snaking his way through the S's. Awesome aerial shot here. Wouldn't mind a few more camera angles like this one, because you really get to see the geography of the layout and what's actually surrounding the circuit. I find that to be really, really cool. Around turn 16, Wombat could pit in here. No, he's going to stay out. He's going to keep going. In comes Saucy. John C has retired. He has crashed out. That is at the exit of the S's. Right on board here with KD. No safety car. There's his car. Smashed it into a barrier. No safety car from that. There goes Tom. Here comes Sorziti. Tom's getting timed on Saucy. Okay. Maybe this undercut will work for Tom. Really didn't think it would. On those hard tyres at least. Usually the overcut tends to work a lot better. That's Bill spinning out. That's at turn 8. And he's been disqualified for driving the wrong way. He will be removed from the race. We're down to 16. Alright. Guessing this time around then, Wombat will be pitting in. Here we go. Into pit lane. We'll pull it up nicely. Down to 3rd. Down to 2nd. So, Tom, he's making his way into the stadium section as I speak. He'll be the important driver to keep an eye on. It's a long pit lane to go through when you're in a Mercedes car. You have to wait for such a long time. Here comes Tom, who's set a new fastest lap. And there is Mighty Wombat. So the undercut has worked. I'm very surprised. Going from mediums to hards doesn't usually work with the undercut. It's usually a lot better with the overcut. Tom's made the undercut work. There you go. You know, inconsistency with game physics. On almost any other racetrack, it's the other way around. Guess here in Mexico, the undercut just works. Alright, Mr. Nas. Saucy. I don't think Mr. Nas here won't be doing anything anytime soon. He's got to worry about his own race. He wouldn't want to battle Saucy too much. Just stay behind. Maybe snag up some DRS. Help himself out. So the gap's now 2.5 seconds. 2.6 between Tom and Wombat. That's thanks to the time it takes to actually get those tyres nice and warm. But Tom, he still has issues. He's got Youngling and Rebel in front of him, and they're not going to move out of the way. That's little Mick who has spun. Pointing back in the right direction now. He has lost time. First target for Tom is Youngling. Makes mincemeat of the Williams. He moves through into 2nd. Ooh, overshoots turn 1 a little bit though. Mighty Wombat behind in 4th. He'll have to catch up to Youngling and pass him, more than likely. You'd be praying that Youngling will be pitting at the end of this lap. Up and down through the rest of the field. Gaps too spread out for any sort of battling, so we'll keep our eyes towards the front. Now Tom, if he can luck out and get by Rebel nice and quickly without losing too much time, be able to extend his gap over Mighty Wombat. DRS open on the McLaren heading towards turn 12. Not close enough to pass here. Around turn 13. Into 14, 15 and around turn 16. And in comes Rebel into the pit. So that's basically the golden ticket that Tom was looking for. He'll get by the traffic in front with incredible ease, and he gets a huge advantage with DRS too. Mighty Wombat, P3, still with a fair bit of catching up to do. He's now 3.1 seconds behind RF1 Tom. Rebel meanwhile making his way out to the pits, and here comes KD. Relatively fresh tyres. Getting down towards turn 1. KD not close enough to do anything here, but Rebel... Oh, but he overshoots 1. Yeah, didn't need that. Really did not need that. Villeneuve, Professor Phil, battling for position. Phil with DRS, he gets in front of the Aston. Down towards turn 1. Phil gets Villeneuve before the braking zone. Ferrari driver now into P9. Villeneuve down to 10th. Wombat losing time, handover first to RF1 Tom. Needs to get by Youngling ASAP. That will help. He'll get DRS assistance too. So Youngling in. It'll be interesting to see where he comes out relative to Rebel. Saucy goes by into third. New set of mediums being put on the car. Mr. Nars in as well. Same with Rocket LMR. It's actually going to be a double stack over at Rebel. There goes Rebel. There goes KD. The Youngling's on fresh tyres. He's basically given himself a license to push. So it'll be interesting to see how this little squabble will resolve itself towards the end of the race. So now it's a battle in terms of time. We have got 15 and a half laps to go from Tom's perspective. He's got a 3-second time penalty as Sutherland gets by Villeneuve. The gap between himself and Mighty Wombat is now 3.8 seconds. These two are going to be pushing right to the limit for these final few laps. Be interesting to see who comes out on top. Tom has track position, obviously. He's got pace right now, but he does have a slight tyre disadvantage. Maybe, just maybe, towards the end of the race, that might take effect. We'll have to wait and see. Gap has increased. It's now 4.1 between the top two. And this is what Mexico's all about. The battle of time penalties. The time penalty Grand Prix. Whoever has the least usually wins the race. Usually. Not always. But I can assure you, in every Mexican Grand Prix in F1 League racing has been a game of time penalties. Villeneuve's in. He'll be getting off his hard tyres and moving on to a set of mediums. And he'll be going to the end of the race on those. Yellow's out. What's that for? Is that harm assist? Having a moment, bringing out yellows. Sparty goes through. Here comes Flavius to the inside. Takes P13 away from the Alpha driver. They head around turn 1 into 2 and 3. The rain at my place has started to pick up again. Really starting to belt it down. So I am thankful for it, though. It has been hot for the past couple of days. That rain is taking the edge off. Very nice. 14 long laps to go left in this race. Got a long way until the checkered. Can't help but feel this is pretty much the only battle we're going to see is between the top two. We do have this train of cars battling, and these are point scoring places. In fairness, as Harmus is trying to go around the outside at turn 13. That does not usually work. You're just better off trying to set up a nice run out of the corner and down the main straight. DRS open on all three cars at the tail of this train. There's Sparty leading it. Flavius in P13. Maintains P13 into turns 1, 2 and into 3. And down the next long straightaway towards turn 4. Take it easy, he's got pace. But he's not close enough to send it down the inside on the harm assist. Here's our race leader. Yellow's out, it's the harm assist spinning. Turn 5. Pointing back in the right direction, he gets going again. There goes Villeneuve, and here comes the race leader. He'll be arriving at the scene shortly. There is the harm assist spinning again, providing a slight distraction there. Out of turn 6 comes Mighty Wombat, trying desperately to close in on the race leader. Professor Phil and Subfeline battling for position. Subfeline moves through into 9th. Ferrari Phil down to 10th. But Sub does have a time penalty next to his name, which will more than likely affect his final finishing result. Here comes Take It Easy. Gets by Flavius with relative ease into turn 1. Moves himself into P14. Arm assist. Now down in 16th place. Has been lapped by the race leader, RF1 Tom. Tom still with 4.1 seconds in hand over Mighty Wombat. These two drivers have been pretty even in terms of pace. The only period I'd say where Tom has been substantially quicker was that undercut period. Just after Tom made his pit stop, his early pit stop. I'm still surprised how well that worked. I know the undercut here can be powerful, but that's usually when you get off the hard tyre and onto a set of mediums. But it seems that regardless of which of the meta strategies you go with, the undercut just seems to work. Especially if you got good pace underneath you. This is not really getting out of the way, but he didn't provide much of a distraction to Mighty Wombat, so I think they'll be okay. Gap still sitting at 4.2 seconds. They head around the final 2 corners and back onto the main straight. Tom will begin lap 26 of 36. We've got 11 laps to go. Now, Take It Easy, trying to close in on Sparty. Not by enough though to attack into turn 4. He'll just try and apply pressure at the back end of Sparty's car. Up towards turn 6. Take It Easy, missing both apexes considerably as they head down into the S's. Turns 7, 8. Around turn 9. Both drivers taking it easy through there. Pardon the pun. Down towards turn 12. Not quite. Don't know why it lingers on that camera angle for too long either. Gee whiz. .3 now, the gap's Tom Wombat still even. There is nothing separating these two. One thing that is, though, I've just picked up on looking at the telemetry is that Tom has got significantly more battery as Take It Easy gets by Sparty down the main straightaway, so Ferrari's now into 12th. See 44% battery in Tom's car, 17 in Wombat's car. It's a big difference. Sort of demonstrating that the outright pace is in Tom's favour. And I don't think he'll be caught unless there's a safety car at some point, which I think at this stage is highly unlikely. Everyone will just be hoping to get to the end of the race by now, and they won't be doing anything silly. Youngling is closing in. We might have a battle on here for 5th place on track. Though Youngling, he can just back off if he wants to. He doesn't have to try and battle KD. KD already has a time penalty, and I think Rebel has 6 seconds, if I recall. Oh no, it's KD who has 6 seconds. Fair enough. Well, he can try and get by KD and get within 3 seconds of Rebel, and that's a P4. It's a pretty solid debut. Through the S's they go. Oh, that's another penalty for KD. Now has 9 seconds next to his name. Running a tad bit wide there. That was probably a warning for KD. Around turn 12 up towards 13. Yeah, I'll be keen to see what he does. But I've also noticed the red fuel icon. So a lot of drivers running pretty even, I've noticed. That red fuel icon On a few cars, Villeneuve is running under. There was another car that was running pretty close as well. As KD gets overtaken by Youngling, there's nothing... Whoa! What was that? Turned out of the corner for whatever reason. But yeah, there was another car that had that red fuel icon. So some drivers are running pretty even in terms of fuel. But it shouldn't be much of an issue, I would think. Alright. Needs to close in by only a couple of tenths, and P4 is his. As long as he doesn't make any mistakes, of course. Though this has been a fine debut for Youngling. I'm sure it would have been nicer for him if it was a more exciting race, of course. But he's put together a fine performance thus far. Very fine performance. Lap 29 of 36. Got 8 laps to go here in Mexico City. Wombat, he won't be able to do anything at this point now. No battery, and even with the slight tyre advantage, he just doesn't have the outright pace. Youngling, though, does have pace, a new fastest lap in 18.7 for him. Demonstrating he's got it. He's got talent underneath him, and he's deserving of this top 5 finish even on his debut. Hopefully we get to see more of this guy. Looks good. Looks quality. 4.2, 4.1 the gap between the top two. But one way to entertain ourselves is to switch on the lap data so we can have a look at split times between the two drivers. We'll get rid of the tyre graphic now, we don't need it. Tyres are pretty redundant by this point. So, lap time for Tom. At the end of lap 29, 1 minute 19.596. For Wombat, it is a 19.4. So Wombat gains a little bit on that lap. Down towards turn 1. Chucking it through the right-hander. Into the left of 2. Around the right at 3. Wombat pulls away by a fair chunk through the first sector. Tom, with the help of DRS, he'll set a 28.9 to the first sector, 28.9 compared to Wombat, 29.6. Really demonstrating how ridiculously powerful DRS is. You do need it. You 100% need it around this circuit. Down towards the S's now, as I believe that was one of the AlphaTauris getting out of the way. Nice and tidy. 58.5 compared to Wombat. 59.2, 7/10 slower. And that's all because of the first sector, thanks to Tom having DRS from the car in front. Just letting Tom break away, reduce the pressure. KD gets another penalty. 18.8 from Tom. Say 19.5. 7/10, nearly 8 tenths over the course of that lap, and almost all of it came from the first sector. Villeneuve gets by Flavius, that's for P14. Coming out of the opening chicane up towards turn 4 now. This will give us a better indication of who's got better straight line speed. So 29.7 from Tom. Professor Phil gets a penalty. 29.8, so yeah, 1/10 separating Tom and Wombat through the first sector. So Tom definitely has slightly better straight line speed, so I guess then Wombat will close the gap through this mid-sector. Around turn 10, into 11, up towards the middle sector split, clock says to the middle sector. 59.4 exactly. What about Wombat? Say 59.2. So a couple tenths faster through the mid part of the lap. So that's where Wombat's able to gain. But everywhere else he's losing, thanks to the fact he just doesn't have the straight line speed to overcome Tom. And generally speaking, over the course of a lap, they're very even. 19.6, 19.7. See, Wombat slower through the final sector. So Wombat is quite a bit quicker through the middle part of the lap, but everywhere else he's slower. It is costing him time. Little Mick gets by Professor Phil around the outside of turn 4. Nice move there. And it seems that Phil can't fight back. So Phil will stay in P11. Little Mick up to 10th. Checking on Youngling again. He's staying within 3 seconds, but that fuel, he's running dead set on even. So he should be okay, so long as he can maintain that. Should take P4 relatively comfortably. 2.7 seconds, 2.3 at the exit. He gained a lot of time on the exit. Substantial amount of time on the exit. That's not what I wanted. Lap data. I'm stupid. Keep the penalties up. Around the final couple of corners for Tom. He'll make his way back onto the main stretch. So now lap 33 of 36. We have got 4 laps to go. Mighty Wombat P2. Followed by Saucy. Saucy, he'll take home P3 so long as he doesn't throw his car into a barrier. I would be pretty certain he'd be happy with a P3 finish. He joined midway through qualifying. He said he didn't get any practice in. He wasn't initially going to race, but he changed his mind. He's here, competing. Yeah, P3 result. It's big points for him and Aston. So, he'd definitely take it. Rebel P4, looking at a P5 finish. I would be pretty certain he'd be happy with that, a P5 finish after all this. Solid points for him and Alpine, and Youngling doing Williams a massive favour. Although Jack is storming away out in front in the Drivers' Championship, in the Constructors it's much tighter. And these points that Youngling is going to get, it's going to keep up the momentum for the Williams outfit. With Little Mick inside the top 10, it should be a double points haul for the Grove racing team. Grove-based racing team. 3 laps to go here in Mexico. Saint Sparty gets overtaken by Villeneuve. That is for P13. Got him quite easily, well before turn 1. Five seconds separating the top 2. There's nothing Wombat can do now except pray. Pray that Tom makes another mistake. Tom could spin. Tom could get another time penalty, and that would put Wombat back in contention. But Tom knows this. Tom isn't silly. He'll drive the car accordingly. And hopefully, as he does that, he doesn't get another time penalty and he doesn't make another mistake. Through the stadium section once again and around the final 2 corners back onto the main stretch. The gap now shrinks. Oh, no, it doesn't. It's still hovering at about 5 seconds. So these two are still even in terms of pace. I thought Tom might have backed off a bit. No, they're still pretty even, Tom and Wombat. But we got 2 laps to go. Sector 2 yellows, that is the harm assist spinning out. Oh, almost puts it into the wall. Fortunately, he doesn't. Villeneuve gets back at Sparty. That is for P13. There's himself back in front at the same spot where Sparty overtook him at turn 1. It's going to get tight between Rebel and Youngling. Maybe those medium tyres have begun to fall off in terms of pace. It's going to be real close for P4, but either way, Youngling will be pretty happy with the top 5. Same with Rebel. Through the S's for the second last time. Up towards the stadium section, you can see Wombat has closed in now. The gap has shrunk to 4.8 seconds. So Tom is just starting to back off. He's trying to control himself and get to the checkered flag. Round the final 2 corners. Back onto the main straight. It's now the final lap, the final 2.6 miles in this Mexican Grand Prix. Of what has been quite possibly the longest race I have ever commentated. Because this felt like an eternity to get through. There's been very, very little action over the course of this one. Just gives us the stark reality of this sport sometimes. Just get dull races when not much happens. Oh, Rebel's made a mistake. Well, he's just thrown away an opportunity to finish 4th with a mistake at the final corner with 1 lap to go. And he drops all the way down to P6. He will finish in 5th thanks to the time penalties. Youngling has just been gifted 4th place. He no longer has to fight for it. He just needs to make it to the finish. 1 sector remains for Tom. It has been complete domination from VSR Jack, but he isn't here today to dominate this race. So we're going to crown a new winner in the America's Tier 1 Championship for Season 8, and it'll be RF1 Tom, who wins the Mexican Grand Prix. Mighty Wombat will finish in 2nd place, and Saucy, when he crosses the line, it will be a podium finish for him, a P3 finish. I'd assume he'd be pretty happy with that. There we are, crossing the line now. That's P3. Youngling, on his America Series debut, will finish in a fine 4th. KD will cross the line in 5th. He will not hold it. Rebel will take it instead. Mr. Nars will be the next car who crosses the line. Will he finish within 12 seconds of KD? He does. Mr. Nars gets P6 at the line by 55 thousandths of a second. Rocket LMR will be the next car to cross. He will finish in P8. Another double points haul for Red Bull. Sub for Line will be next in 9th. He crosses the line now. So Harm Assist goes all the way down to P16. Little Mech will round out the top 10, and our final finisher will be Professor Phil. Finally, the race has ended. That took a long time. I must say, that was genuinely one of the longest races I've watched. Very, very little happened over the course of this one. Take no credit away from the top 3. They performed well. Here's our race winner. RF1 Tom. Only the 2nd race winner in this season so far. Jack has dominated everything, but he's not here today. Tom's our race winner. P2 goes to Mighty Wombat. P3 to Saucy. So, the unofficial results of the Mexican Grand Prix. Wait, why can't I? I can't move. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay, whatever, game. So, unofficial results of the Mexican Grand Prix. RF1 Tom is our race winner. Mighty Wombat 2nd, Saucy 3rd, Youngling 4th, Rebel 5th, Mr. Nars 6th, KD 7th, Rocket LMR 8th, Sunfalime 9th, and Little Mick rounds out the 10. We have Professor Phil P11, followed by Take It Easy, Insane Sparty, Flavius, and Villeneuve complete the points scoring places. Harmless finishes in 16th. Our retirees John C. and Sergeant Bill. Oh, well, apologies folks for the rather dull broadcast, but genuinely there wasn't much going on. circuit throughout that one. A lot of drivers kept to themselves, seems like, over the course of that race. Oh, yeah, that's actually made me tired. I don't often get that tired, but I am that tired. It's only midday here too. Gee whiz. Well, that was a race. It was certainly a race that happened. Really wasn't much more than that. Certainly wasn't the greatest race by any stretch of the imagination. But it was certainly a race regardless. Congratulations to the top 3 as well. Congratulations, Tom. Winning this event. Drove pretty spot on the entire way through. Minus the time penalty, of course. But you negotiated that pretty well, especially with the undercut. Didn't think that would work, but it most certainly did. Wombat, congrats on the P2, and well done, Saucy, after joining late to finish in P3. But I think, folks, after a very long stream, it's time for us to wrap everything up. And hopefully we can move on to a more exciting race next week. But, yeah, it's time for us to end the stream. I've been Lane Everingham. Thank you all so much for watching, and hopefully we will see you next week for round 5 of the championship at the Hungaroring for the Hungarian Grand Prix. I know it doesn't sound like the most exciting race to go to, but I can assure you, I've seen some pretty interesting races at Hungaroring. Tends to be quite dramatic, action-packed. Not a great deal of racing, just a lot of drama at Budapest. So hopefully we get to see you then. But until then, it's goodbye.